I think the one thing that stood out to me in what Jonathan just spoke about was a lot of standardization is what you're looking at, right? Standardization of tools, of measurements, of naming conventions, whatever that might be that makes our job easier. Thank you. We're just going to move on to the next one, a panel between 4 people. So quickly going to do some introductions. Anmol Mundhra, AGM at Aster DM Healthcare, brings a strong background in financial modeling, market assessment, and growth strategy, with prior experience at Alvarez and Marcel and Deloitte. Known for his exceptional attention to detail, he's one of the most meticulous professionals out there. Having stepped into his role just a month ago, we're excited to see the impact he'll make. Welcome, Anmol. Please come ahead. Next, we've got Aditya. He's the head of buying process and demand planning at Landmark Group, driving strategic growth and operational efficiency. With prior experience at Birla Carbon and Aditya Birla Capital, his expertise spans market development, strategic alliances, and supply chain management. An interesting fact about Aditya, he was part of his university sports committee, university cricket team, university football team, and during his masters at IIM Lucknow, he played for the institute football team. Whew. A leader on and off field. Welcome, Aditya. Vishesh is the Director of Customer Success at Fynd, with over 6 years of experience driving the growth of Fynd Store OS. A go-to expert in retail tech and omnichannel strategy, he bridges innovation and execution to create seamless shopping experiences in stores. Beyond work, he's a sneakerhead who loves skating around the city. He's also just moved to Dubai with his better half, his new better half. And so we'll hopefully see him skating around a bit more. Big welcome to you, Vishesh. And our moderator for the evening, Dharmendra.
It'll go us. Maybe me and Anmol can share and you guys can share. So good evening again. I think Kritika's already done the introduction, so we won't spend more time there. She's done a better job than I would have done for myself. But I think the fun part, I was really looking forward to this conversation because we have a great mix. We have 3 different diverse functions. We have an expert in e-commerce, we have an expert in buying, planning, merchandising, and we have a person who's built the entire commerce platform for Fynd, which is the entire unified technology experience and how stores operate and what are new stores going to look like in the future, right? But all of us are servants of our customers and we're all looking forward to building them one same goal, right? And therefore, again, with the same theme of what the next 5 years look like, would be great to get insights from all of you. We'll probably start off with you, Anmol, where pharmacies are kind of uniquely positioned that there's a mix of products which are lifestyle and products which are subscription based or prescription based, not subscription. Sorry. So, but I think so. How do you kind of look at from an e-commerce strategy and execution perspective? What are key challenges that you face so far, and how are you kind of figuring out solutions for the way forward?
Sure. Thanks, Dharmendra. So overall, for us, I think Aster is known for being very good in prescription, which is the necessary medication that you need. What we are looking to kind of transition to is the wellness aspect of your well-being. We now want to bring the entire Aster ecosystem on a digital platform, so that includes hospitals, clinics, pharmacies, opticals, everything together in one. And that helps you to transition seamlessly across different offerings that we have. I think from an e-commerce perspective, the biggest challenge is, of course, is the basics, right? Assortment, pricing, availability. So those are the key aspects that we're trying to track. And then moving on to how the customer is also changing in terms of its demands, right? Going more hyper-local, getting better service. So those are the key basics that we focus on. But what we also want to look at is how we make the experience between offline and online very seamless. So just as an example, you go to a pharmacy, you will, for a prescription, you will maybe face certain waiting times, insurance rejections, product not in stock, right? So what we're trying to do is, if you book your consultation through the app, you can pre-order your medicines, come to the offline clinic, and then just go back home, and we'll get the medicines delivered to you. So we're trying to bridge that gap so that you do not feel the need to be either offline or online. So that's where we're trying to transition to.
I think great point. I think you represent demand planning for a retailer who's largely offline in that sense, right? And a large part of your proportion of sales comes from offline, and demand planning plays a very key role in fast fashion. So, what are your key challenges, and how are you coming up with solutions?
So I think, first of all, thank you for having me here, and thank you for the lovely introduction. I've kind of forgotten that I play so many sports because I've not done that for some time. You're right. So essentially, with Splash, which is a fast fashion company of Landmark Group, primarily offline, demand planning is. There was a time that demand planning was simpler, probably about 10 years ago, when fashion was more of a commodity, wherein people came to the stores to buy t-shirts, or the best they had is they want to buy a white t-shirt or a black t-shirt. Today, one with the younger generation getting so much access to the global trends, they've become much more demanding. That they probably know what's going on the ramp walk, and they want an adaptation of that at about 49 dirhams or a 50 dirham price point. And secondly, I think most of the people in retail have probably acknowledged the fact that the current generation of Gen Z have not been so loyal to any of the brands. The companies like H&M, who never complained about customer churn, today are talking about customer churn in their reports, which means even they are losing customers. So demand essentially breaks into two parts. One is the commodity part of it, where it's more quantitative, where what you've sold last year, you will try and get that more of this year. Now that goes against the law of fast fashion, because what you've sold last year, probably you don't want to sell that this year because the customer wants something else. And that's where the qualitative part of it comes in, and that's where global companies like WGSN have analytic tools that talks about what would be in the trend. And there are essentially a lot of technologies going around the globe, but at least in my last 4 years, I have not seen anybody able to crack that piece, because if you walk into any of a fashion retail store, say a Zara store, or a Splash store, or an H&M store, you'd see about 5,000-6,000 options on the floor, between 5,000-6,000 kind of pieces, 50,000-60,000 SKUs at any point of time. If the customer is not loyal, you can't bank so much on last year's data. If the customer does want a fast changing trend, you can't bank so much on the data that you have. And hence, trying to predict what a customer wants becomes even more difficult. And that's probably the biggest challenge, where the biggest challenge lies. Today, with so much of opportunities or so much of competition in the market, the customer is spoiled for choices. They've not remained so loyal, and hence the whole aspect of data analytics is relevant, but it's also not so relevant and goes against the idea. So that's the biggest challenge. I think the customer behavior, that's probably the biggest challenge that I think most of the fashion or the clothing retailers are dealing with currently. Even the big ones are struggling with that. Also, I think one of the other things which is also very relevant for a retail market, precisely for fashion retail, is where do you manufacture your goods? And most of the manufacturing happens in countries like China, India, Bangladesh. And when we are in such a dynamic world where the whole geopolitical situation is changing, we don't know tomorrow whether the Red Sea Canal would be open or not open. The whole global supply chain disruption creates a lot of problems. Fast fashion also means you need to have something goods on time. And if something disrupts globally, if there's a factory that's gone off in China, you might not have that product. So I think the customer behavior aspect of it, along with the reliance on global supply chain and the disruption there, creates the biggest challenge and probably the biggest opportunity for technology to come in and aid the space.
Amazing. I think you brought up a great point on customer behavior. Yesterday, I was talking to the CEO of Fynd, and he said, until last year, 70% of Valentine gifting was ordered by the 12th. This year, 70% of their orders came in on the 13th of February. So on the 14th, they were in a choke situation and they couldn't take any more orders. So no last minute gifting was possible, right? So, but I think great point. Vishesh, I think coming to you, there's on the third dimension, third pillar of retail, right? From stores perspective, there is a lot of innovation that's being driven by HQs, but there is also a lot of innovation that happens at store level, right? In your experience, how do you see in-store opportunities of technology being used and how they're kind of shaping?
Good evening, everyone. There are a lot of large consumer-based companies who speak about how keeping the employee-first approach is always going to eventually work for the customers, right? We say if the employees are happy, the customers are eventually going to be happy. Now, when it comes to deployment of technology at the store, that important point goes missing, right? In my opinion, if we are putting a technology at the store, if we're deploying a technology at the store, which is eventually elevating the way the store staff, the store manager, who's actually the brand ambassador, right? If they're reaching out to the consumer in a much more better way, if they're reaching out in a much more confident way, nothing beats that. That for me is actual store-driven adoption, right? I was part of Aditya for almost 5 years when I was working in the stores as part of their program, and then eventually almost 6.5 years in Fynd developing that technology. I used to crib in the store that why is that all the products being deployed in the store are for the customers and not for the staff, not for the store manager, right? Eventually, when I got the opportunity, I think we created a lot of modules. There are so many products in the market, such as task management, clienteling, endless aisle kind of solution, which makes these guys' life easier, right? It empowers them with a lot of confidence to reach out to the customer in the best possible way. Imagine walking into a store, there's this guy whom you meet, who exactly knows the product detail, who knows how much inventory is available, if it is not available in the size, placing an endless aisle order, having a view of what is available in the other store, having a view of the entire transaction. Then on the other part of it, if he places that order, how much sales is he going to achieve? What is the near target? What is the competitor store doing, right? Getting that entire competition module also part of it is something which is amazing. I mean, if you're reach that level of adoption at the store level, I think nothing beats that.
Amazing. So you're saying essentially technology should be user-based, irrespective of not just
Absolutely.
consumer, right? I think a great point. And then probably expanding on that from a customer perspective, right? And how do you see like personalization of staff is what Vishesh was talking about, but I'm sure in your role, you look at a lot of personalized experiences for customers, right? How are you approaching it at Aster and what are key takeaways?
For us, so in typically for anybody who's in UAE, their lives would have been touched by one of Aster's services, right? We have hospitals, clinics, the entire gamut of services. So trying to make sense of all of that data, as I think Jyoti was also saying, you get data from various sources, but trying to make sense of that has been what our efforts have been over the past few years. So we use now CRM and predictive analytics to try and break our customer segments down to very specific micro cohorts. So it won't be a spam-based message saying buy XYZ, but very specific. For example, it would be different for a expecting mother versus a mother who's just given birth, for example, right? So that entire CRM journey, your refill reminders, etc., are standard, but getting that more personalized experience in terms of cross-selling, upselling is something that we're focusing on, and we're trying to bring that to the store level as well. So our pharmacist would know whatever you have bought over the past few years, both online and offline, and he would of course recommend basis your purchase history. But if you're trying to buy a magnesium supplement, they would know what goes well with it as well. So what that does is it standardizes the experience across Aster stores, but it also personalizes it for you. And that's a major effort that we call the POS nudges. Essentially, that's what we rolled out. But I think from everyone's perspective at retail, personalization is if you walk into a store and you get what you want. Similarly online, right? So a lot of effort at the back end has been made to automate our warehouses, automate our systems to make sure we stock at the right level. The good thing is we do not have the problems of fast fashion, so so we know that what the customer wants. It's just about trying to get that in the right place. I think online actually has helped us a lot in that aspect. Earlier, we used to be very rigid in the sense that in this area only this product will sell, right? But now, because we have the entire gamut of information, both from our shoppers and from the Googles and the searches of the world, we have drastically changed how we merchandise our stores, and that has yielded extremely positive results. So getting all of that information into play and personalizing it for the customer is has been key for us to kind of drive our e-commerce forward, both from an e-pharmacy perspective and the digital care, which we call a consultation, teleconsultation, all that into place.
Thanks. I think, Aditya, to you, an extension of the same question is largely demand planning has a glamorous side, which is all about the customer facing side of demand, but the other side is the supply side, right, which is inventory and a lot of unsold stocks that remain. How are you leveraging technology to kind of make sure that your stock churns at the right time, and how do you kind of utilize some of those methods?
So essentially, inventory for a fashion company is mostly broken with seasons. So I think most of you would be aware that there are generally 2 seasons, autumn, winter, and spring, summer in a fashion retail. So to be able to get inventory spot on, you kind of bifurcate that into 3 parts. The first is what you do pre-season. So before you start trading, what all things do you do, and what all kind of gives in to have the perfect inventory. That's when you basically order. That's when you start buying, and that's when you start ordering. Where demand or demand forecast plays a big role. In terms of technology, I think data analytics still is playing a key role in to be able to aid a buyer and a planner on what shall be ordered majorly in terms of what sizes to go for what stores, because you start ordering at a store level, not at a business level, as well as to keep in mind certain trends which are more universal. So it gets what sold last year, whether there's t-shirts or shirts, and how do you take that and take it forward. So predictive data analytics for demand forecasting is one of the key technologies that works from a pre-season perspective. Also, from a pre-season perspective, what's very important is you get your stock right on time. So in fast fashion space, you of course can't be late, but because you have to manage your inventories, you also can't be early. So there are a lot of visibility tools, primarily on logistics and supply chain, that aids that part as well, where you have the leverage of pushing and pulling right at the end. So if you want to kind of get something early, you have the air transports and kind of have the visibility to bring it forward. You've also got something to push forward that you don't want in your stock. So from a pre-season perspective, the demand forecasting engine, which is data analytics led, as well as the visibility tool helps. As you enter in season and you start trading a particular season, one of the big things is the visibility of the stock, and RFID now, about a 10-15-year-old relevant technology in retail, helps that. It kind of gives the view of where a particular stock is, whether it's in the warehouse, store, back store, or it's in transit. So that gives the visibility part of it. I think one of the key progress today, which has been made by technology, is in the field of markdown management. Because in retail, and especially in fast fashion, markdown becomes a very important, or discount becomes a very important tool to liquidate something that's not working. That's where we've seen the highest advent of data analytics along with AI, where today there are tools which can predict, if you give, say, a 20% markdown, what's the increase in rate of sale that you'll see, depending on how it's done last year, depending on what's the trend, depending on the customer that you're trying to give. Also, a level of personalization is brought in today, where for a specific customer, essentially on e-commerce, you can give a tailor-made discount offering or a tailor-made GB. So that's probably where the AI bit and the data analytics bit has progressed the fastest. That's the in-season bit. And then there's a post-season bit as well, because most of the fashion retailer end up selling only they're left with 1/5 of what they've bought for the season. They're not able to sell 100% of whatever they bought for the season. And at that point of time, essentially having your product at the right price, at the right channel becomes very important. I'll probably talk about one example, like as we step today into Ramadan, a lot of, or you'll see a lot of our stores covered with, especially for women's wear, a lot of occasion kind of wearing, a lot of dresses, bling dresses where you can wear these to your suhoods and to the events of Ramadan. Now that sells well during Ramadan, but if you keep that stock and if the leftover stock is left in your brick and mortar stores post Ramadan, you'll not even see one piece selling. But if you consolidate those and keep it on your e-commerce, some of it sells during Diwali for the Indian cohort. Some of it sells if they have certain occasions in their family. So that's one customer trend that we have seen. That if a customer is trying to buy something out of season, they generally tend to go to an e-commerce platform rather than go and search in the mall, in the stores. So how do we post season ending bifurcate that stock, take it to the right channel at the right price, and how do we liquidate that? So that's where again a lot of algorithm based engines have worked really well for a lot of companies. We at Splash are also trying to develop something which is more of an algorithm based. So that's how the pre-season bit, the in-season and the post-season breaks up, and that's where the technology kind of aids us to ensure that you get the inventory right spot on.
Very well answered. And very detailed too. Vishesh, I think just expanding further on that, now everything's become unified, right? Customers are shopping, researching online, shopping in store, and the other way around. How are you seeing these trends evolve from a tech perspective, from a platform perspective? How are unified journeys being built where stores and online experiences are almost common?
I think we all know that the online e-commerce business compared to probably a brick and mortar business is growing 2x, 3x, 10x, right? Each and every brand you look at, I mean, there's no comparison between the way the online business is growing, right? But every time you shop online, the kind of experiences which you can avail online, the experience when you go into the store is absolutely broken, right? There can be various reasons for that, but probably one of the biggest reasons is that none of the systems are actually seamless in talking to each other, right? Tomorrow, if you want a seamless experience at the store, I know a lot of brands whom I speak to want to do click and collect, right? So if you buy something online, you want to collect the same product at the store, and that kind of unifies the journey. But that's not the only thing available there, right? Right now, you have a website which is on another platform. You have a TMS, WMS working on some other platform. You have CRM tools, loyalty tools. Those are on another platform, right? I mean, the right answer to all of this, as in the fact that Jonathan also highlighted, is having like a proper unified commerce platform in place, right? You don't even want to have a middleware. You don't want any kind of motion between the APIs, which can build like a language which can go seamlessly together. The only answer to this is probably having a unified commerce platform. So the kind of experience that you're having in the store, the kind of experience which you see online needs to be seamless. And until unless your entire tech stack is probably on one commerce solution on one platform, it's going to be very difficult.
I think great point. Anmol, just coming back to you for probably a last round of questions, maybe the same question to everyone, and you can all answer it in your way. But over the next 5 years, and this is the same question I asked Jonathan, what are your key goals and what do you think the world in 2030 would look like for Anmol, Aditya, and Vishesh?
That's a curveball. See, what I think it's pretty standard knowledge of omni-channel customer. Lifetime value is higher, retention is higher, spends more than a purely offline or a purely online customer, right? And I think I was just chatting to someone. What we are trying to push is to get all our customers to interact on both platforms. So that is definitely one. Second is how can we, for us at least, because our business is a lot of prescription-based business, how can we improve that process significantly further? So right now there are delays across insurances, there are delays in just getting the prescription from a clinic to a pharmacy. So there's a lot of work we are doing to try to make that process entirely seamless. And then we're also working to make sure that you can order your prescription very seamlessly as well through the platform, through our platform. And I think third is how well can we leverage analytics and our data. And I know we all talk about getting AI into our day-to-day life cycle, but right now we still depend a lot on lagging indicators. What has sold is what we're going to sell. A little bit of more predictive analytics is where we are trying to head towards it, because there's a lot of work we are doing and to be done on that front. But I think that is where the industry overall is shifting, and also how we manage customer expectations is something important. So I think we touched upon if a company should go to marketplace or not. How well can you expand your assortment, and how quickly can you do that? It is essentially how e-commerce is going to grow. So you have to make that fine line between growth and customer experience, and that is something that we are all trying to navigate through now increased cross-border transactions, increased options to customers on getting what they want online very quickly. So yeah, those are the 3-4 pieces that we think is going to shape e-commerce and retail in the region.
So I think for Splash, but also for the industry, the fast fashion industry, I think there's a threefold challenge. The first and the biggest is how do you remain relevant? Because somebody like us who's been into this industry for about 33 years, where we've had our core competencies in planning a season 12 months in advance, where we start 12 months in advance and then deliver. And when we see somebody like Shein and they talk about 21 days from research to delivery, it becomes a big challenge or a big question whether you want to stick to your core competencies or whether you want to move to something that somebody else is a disruptor doing. And there's always that fear of not becoming the Nokia of the fashion industry. So you want to be relevant, you want to be relevant to your consumer. So that's probably the biggest challenge that we have. The second biggest challenge is about being profitable as well, because when you see, I think Jonathan, you talked about Trendyol, you see companies like Shein, Trendyol, Temu come into this market space with stacks of cash to burn, be it on marketing, be it on customer acquisition, be it on the product prices as well. It becomes really difficult to be able to compete with that because essentially you're targeting the same customer. So how do you remain profitable with the whole ecosystem that you've built? How do you remain profitable with the suppliers and make them profitable? How do you ensure the stores which were running at a certain capex and opex continues to run that? So along with being relevant, being profitable is the key second challenge, where it's currently becoming very, very crammed and very, very tight. And then the third challenge is the buzzword of sustainability in the industry, where we see a lot of brands banking on the fact that they want to be sustainable. But today, at least in the region, the customer is not willing to pay additional for a sustainable garment or for a sustainable brand. And sustainability comes at a cost unless you're just going and whitewashing, greenwashing that. So third challenge is how do you continue to remain sustainable, you continue to remain relevant for the environment, but without having a cost attached to it, because as I said, most of the customers still want something sustainable, something to come which is good for the earth, but they're not willing to pay an additional price for that. So I think that's probably being relevant, being profitable, and how do you gamble with the buzzword in the industry, sustainable, how do you tackle that? That's the whole challenge that we're facing.
Just very UAE specific, but with rising rentals, especially for retail, the payback period for opening a new store has changed significantly, right? From 12 to 24 months to now 36 months and beyond. So that question of churn of stores, how many do you shut which are either loss making or margin dilutive, even if they're profitable, versus opening new stores at higher rentals and then higher payback period, then also becomes a key challenge to navigate. And how do you leverage your current network versus growing to new stores and flagship stores becomes very relevant, especially for how the rental market has gone in UAE.
I love it when e-commerce guys talk about stores.
I'm gonna stick to stores though. I think from a technology perspective, we've been building it from a very long time now. What really excites me is seeing new technologies being deployed at the store, right? Seamless, of course, from the unified commerce platform point of view, but also enhancing the customer experience at the store. I see year on year self-checkout kiosks being improving, right? There were barcode scanners and now there are RFID pins. But what really intrigues me is probably the product recommendation and the smart mirror kind of things being put at the stores. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if I walk into a store and if I see a smart mirror which can scan my body type, my color, and give me smart recommendations about what I really want to wear, right? I can put in an input, I need to go to a smart casual day or probably a streetwear on a Friday evening. I don't know what to wear. Like I take like 15-20 minutes every day in the morning to figure out what is going to match with what. And at the end of the day, I eventually keep wearing blue. Half of my wardrobe is just blue. I don't know how many of you guys have that problem, but getting those smart recommendations, because you have such a huge database, right? You need that validation, and if it is coming from the tech, then I don't think you would need anything. So search engines, product recommendations, and those smart mirrors, I think those are going to be absolute gold in the stores for the next 5 years.
Amazing. I think great conversation. I could have continued longer, but Kritika is already showing me the watch. We'll take a few questions from the audience if there are any.